ready for BYU Game Day. Download the KSL News Radio app to stream BYU games, plus breaking news during the week. That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Welcome back into Cougar Nation here on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte with you. Every Monday night we hold it down here on the legacy home of the Cougars, talking BYU hoops. And it's your show, Cougar Nation. We want to take your phone calls, 801-575-8255. You can get on board with us, share your thoughts about how the atmosphere changes at the Marriott Center when a top 25 opponent rolls into town, or just give your general thoughts on this BYU basketball team. It's your show, so call in 801-575-8255. But right now, let's get to what's trending up and trending down with the Cougs.
Cougar Nation, trending. What's trending up and what's trending down this season?
Let's start with the negatives, Mitch, and then we'll end on a high note, the positives. Trending down for me is Dallin Hall. What is going on, Mitch? I cannot figure this out. He plays over 24 minutes against UCF. 1 field goal, 0 of 1. Gets to the free throw line, 1 of 4. I like that he's taking care of the ball, 5 assists to 2 turnovers, but I'm not seeing any aggression. And I thought after that kind of breakout second half against Oklahoma State, we were going to see that guy more times than not, but he seems to have regressed back into this passive role, watching Yegor kind of run the offense. I can't figure it out because he plays a good chunk of the game without Yegor, and yet we still don't see that aggressive Dallin Hall. And Kevin Young has talked about this for weeks. Like, they want Dallin Hall to be aggressive. They love aggressive Dallin Hall. They want him to drive to the basket and shoot the threes, and yet we're seeing too many performances where it's 1 field goal, 2 field goals. There's not enough impact from Dallin Hall right now, and this dude, I believe, is a upper echelon guard in the Big 12. I don't know if he's ever going to be first team caliber, but you can't tell me he's not one of the top 8 point guards in terms of talent and impact in the league, and yet you've got nowhere near that production from him this year. I cannot figure out what's going on with Dallin Hall, and unfortunately, he's trending in the wrong direction.
You're right. It just seems like he's not aggressive and looking for his shot at all, and it's just so puzzling because, you bring up, being a potential all-conference guy. He was last year, honorable mention All Big 12, and when you're in that conversation, you're a top 10 point guard, and when you're a top point guard in the Big 12, that means you're one of the top guards in college basketball, and he's just not a threat offensively right now. And to your point, I do like that his ball movement's still good. He was still second in the team, tied for second with 5 assists, along with Mawat Mag and Yegor Demon with 6 assists. But even late in the game, Kevin Young has a lot of trust in Dallin still, despite maybe the lack of aggressiveness on the offensive end, because late in the game, Yegor and Dallin are on the court together, but even when it's not with Yegor, there's still just not much offensive production from him. And that kind of got highlighted, too, because when we talk about trending down, I want to point out 2 other reserve players. Dawson Baker, he had a little bit of a step back. I thought it was one of the rare off nights for Dawson. He was 1 of 5 from the field and 0 of 4 from 3, 0 of 3 from free throw line. I don't think we're going to have another night like that from Dawson Baker again, but that was a little bit of a step back from him when he was getting his name a little bit in some of the headlines. And then Cannon Catchings kind of reminded us he is a freshman, and it's not a consistent product every single night with him yet. After a perfect performance, he goes 0 for on shooting. But I did like what he contributed on the defensive end, 5 rebounds, and I thought he was being active on the defensive side of things. So he's improving there, but the offensive game, like many freshmen in college basketball, it's up and down every single night, and that's kind of one of the reasons why Catchings is coming off the bench still, and Mawat Mag is comfortably in that starting lineup and playing some big minutes for BYU.
Trending up for me is Keba Keita. I thought he had a nice game. 10 points, 7 rebounds. He had some big free throws in the second half, and I just think that his fit in this scheme is becoming more and more apparent. He played 8 more minutes than Foose did in that game, and Foose is going to have his games where he's a matchup problem, and he has it going, and he plays more minutes. But I think night in and night out, you're starting to see Caba's willingness to set hard screens, to rebound, and then it doesn't hurt when you have a couple monster late-game blocks that protect the rim as well. I loved his playmaking at the rim, completely shutting the door on any UCF chance at a slight comeback after Down Hall missed those 2 free throws to keep the door open. Foose closed it. Keita closed it. And I like the way that he's playing. I think he's truly emerging as that rim-running, rim protector, alley-oop type guy for Kevin Young's scheme.
I like the comment, too, that Justin Young, Kevin Young's brother, and he's also the director of recruiting at BYU basketball, he shared something on X about some of the greatest athletes he's been around. And this is noteworthy because for people that aren't familiar with Justin Young, he was at the grassroots level recruiting, heavily involved with, covering some of the best prospects to come through the high school ranks in, say, the last 25 years or so. And he put Keita in his top 10 athletes that he's ever seen in person. He put it next to Zion Williamson, Josh Smith, Aaron Gordon, Dwight Howard for some perspective. So Keita is awe-inspiring. I mean, every game he has a play or two that just kind of blows me away. I think we talked to Chris Burgess about this a couple weeks ago where we asked him, do you ever just kind of get numb to these wow moments from Keita because he seems to do it all the time? And Burgess just said the guy's incredible how explosive he is. And it was nice to see him getting a little bit more done on the offensive end beyond just simply the alley-oops. Like, he had a little bit of touch around the rim. Yeah. And he knocked down 2 big free throws, too, late in the game. I thought that was impressive from Keba as well. I got to point out, my trending up is just the fact that BYU navigated its lowest point, what I believe is the lowest point of the season, the loss to Utah, the loss to TCU. Yet they're at the midway point of the year, Matt, and they're 6-4. And to have a winning record at the midway point after the manner that they were losing games where they could not find any answers in close calls, they got hammered at Houston, like many teams do. I just think that I believe that their toughest days as far as the low points of this group are behind them. Now, they're still going to have some losses. This is a tough schedule ahead, but I think that you look ahead in these next 10, BYU could be favored potentially on the high end, I think, in 8 of these 10 games going forward. The predictive metrics love BYU. They really do. And they've been high on them throughout this entire season. And Kevin Young talked about this gauntlet of a schedule in the Big 12 and the 20-game slate that he's navigating with this team, and even drew some comparisons to the NBA.
Obviously we have the built-in Sundays off, which has actually been a real nice thing, quite frankly. So we try to sprinkle in other days off where people don't get run down and things like that and try to keep everything fresh. So the 20-game gauntlet, it is a gauntlet because it's just a level of intensity in each game. That's one of the big differences of NBA regular season to college regular season is there's very few nights where it's not just going to be a dogfight. In the NBA, you get cupcake games all the time because guys are on back-to-back, this, that, the other. There's so many variations of what each game looks like, whereas in this, it's, if you don't bring it, you're going to get smacked.
Great commentary from KY, and I think it illustrates why college basketball still kind of has that fun element of what's the word I'm looking for here, Mitch? It has the – gosh, the English vocabulary, it's fading from my mind. But
passion?
No, not passion. Urgency is what I'm looking for. There's urgency in college basketball that you don't quite get in the NBA. Even today, as the NBA is approaching the NBA trade deadline and the All-Star game this month, is there any urgency? Like, most teams are still in play to get to the postseason, whereas BYU, for instance, since losing to Utah, has pretty much been in a situation where we got to crank it up or we're going to run out of time to qualify for the NCAA tournament. They're in a much better place now. Still not a finished product. They have to go out and at least win at least 4 more conference games. If they can get 5 or 6 more, I think they're squarely in the NCAA tournament. But you love that urgency because a game like tomorrow against Arizona, it has tremendous value and impact on your ability to play in the NCAA tournament. And the focus is there, the fan base is going to be there, the attention's going to be there. And being in the Big 12, Mitch, we get – how many of these games do we get? Out of the 20 they're playing this year, are 14 of those 20 games, do they feel like the ones that are going to feel like tomorrow? Because that UCF game felt that way. It was urgent. It was important. and the team responded. We get a lot of those in the Big 12, and it's just fun to have so many of those games that feel big, because I just don't feel that in the NBA right now, but I love that we feel that for BYU in the Big 12.
Let's talk more about that big game coming up tomorrow night, BYU and Arizona on the other side. And Cougar Nation is brought to you by Central Bank. Central Bank, serving Utah County for over 133 years with trusted service, modern technology, and personalized care. Central Bank, proud sponsor of Cougar Nation. Give us a phone call last moment to get on board with us, 801-575-8255. Share your thoughts on this game and the enhanced atmosphere at the Marriott Center, what that brings when there's a top 25 opponent that rolls into town. It's Cougar Nation here on KSL.